There we go. Now we're live. Welcome to the April 1st, 2025 Gorham Town Council regular meeting. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We shall start with roll call.
Chairperson Phillips. Councilor Sims.
Present.
Councilor Willis.
Present.
Councilor Kush.
Present.
Councilor Gagnon.
Present.
Councilor Lavoy.
Present.
Councilor Siegel.
Present.
Next, we will move on to the acceptance of the minutes of the March 4th, 2025 regular Town Council meeting and the March 4th, 2025 special Town Council meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Phil. Is there a second?
Second by Jan.
Second by Kutch. Any discussion? None? Seeing none, all those in favor? 6 yeas. Now we'll move on to the open public communication. This is for any citizen that wants to voice their concerns, thoughts, opinions on items not on the agenda. If you come to the podium, we ask that you state your name and address, and we ask that you keep your comments right around 4 minutes.
Hi, am I on? Yes, good. Hi, my name's Charlie Hamblin. Good evening. 1126 Hamblin Drive. I'm here to talk about quarry impacts in town. First, thank you for rejecting the proposed contract zone to expand the Brickyard Quarry. Property owners require special consideration and protection from towns and states because they lack the knowledge, understanding, and financial ability to challenge vibration damage to our homes. While blasting, excess blasting energy, when the rock is not broken, is wasted in the form of ground vibration. Ground vibration is what we feel when a blast occurs. Peak particle velocity is a measurement of the ground vibration. Air blasts are airborne waves which people feel as sounds and pressure. This can crack walls and break windows. Confusing? Yes. Although it's been studied at great length because this happens worldwide. Quarries are a tough thing. Gorham has an ordinance that requires blasting reports be filed after each blast. What baseline do we measure these against? These blasts are being monitored from a house at 15 Queen Street, not the closest house to the blast. Gorham should add additional language to the existing quarry ordinances. We suggest adopting the New Hampshire Department of Transportation standards. This creates a baseline to measure the blasts against. Adding these measurable targets improves the ordinance we have today, as measured from the closest house, the PPV upper limits of 0.75 for newer homes and 0.5 for older homes. Additionally, air blast standard limits should be set at 134 decibels. Recently, we have started talking to residents in Cressy Road and Lovers Lane near Route 25 Quarry. Their challenges are not unlike Brickyard neighbors. They have documented contacts with the town with no resolution. Gorham residents have issues with quarries. Let's start addressing them by updating existing ordinances. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Harold Parks, and I live at 17 George Street. I would hope that the council can give us some clarity on where the councilors stand on the Gorham connector. We've seen in the paper where one councilor is in favor of it, another councilor is against it, but we don't know what the current position is of the council. And what's even more disturbing is the fact that our legislative delegation, our senator and two of our representatives signed on for a bill that was introduced just on the 12th of March, and this week they're already holding a hearing on it. That's very unusual. But if the council can give some clarity, just what is the position of the council at this point, I think the public would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
In life, I'd rather be lucky than good. My name is Mark Curtis. I'm a Gorham resident, and I, too, am here to speak about the spur, so I couldn't thank that gentleman enough for the introduction. Turnpike Spur obviously has been kicking around for a long time. We've made a lot of progress towards that spur. We've done a lot of studies. We've done a lot of engineering. The Turnpike has spent a ton of money. I don't disagree with Councillor Sims that, maybe further study and more reports are required. But you know what's not required is the way it's being approached right now. It's bad policy. I agree with the gentleman that went before me. Every council that I ever saw in the last 25 years since this idea came up has supported the idea. You support the idea because this, I believe, is undisputed, that the economic impact of a spur coming to Gorham and Points West would greatly impact the ability for this town to build its tax base. It's not unreasonable to believe that it would impact us positively. The problem we have is that everybody wants to live here. I do too. It's great. Lot prices are going up, but we're a bit of a cut through. To Councillor Sims' disadvantage here is he didn't live here in the neighborhood that he lives in when that was a cut-through neighborhood. You lived here when it was a cut-through neighborhood? You lived here before 2008?
I see the point.
Okay, right. So I did. And I can tell you, watching that traffic buzz through there, and everybody that lived in there, they were dying for a bypass. That bypass stopped all of the fuel trucks that go down through Main Street, all of the dump trucks, all of the big heavy grocery trucks, every truck that you can imagine was down through our downtown. I sat here at one of the meetings, a planner decades ago, Deb Fossum, who I didn't necessarily agree with a lot of what she said, but when she told me that the town of Gorham was going to be a village, I was blown away. I was like, how is that ever going to happen? Well, I stand here to tell you I was wrong, because the minute that went through, the nature of the town of Gorham changed. It is a village. The planning has come to fruition. It's much more walkable than it's ever been. It's much more bike rideable than it's ever been. I can 100% guarantee you, if that bypass didn't exist, you wouldn't be riding your bike on Main Street. There's no way. You wouldn't dare. So what I'm here to say is that I agree with the gentleman that went before me. This town needs some leadership on this item. And it's very important that we get that leadership. And I'm sorry to call you out by name, Mr. Sims, but I'm telling you right now, working behind the scenes against all the work that's happened before you got here is not the way to go about it. We will get more done with all of us working together than we will working against each other. There's nobody in this room than all of us. There's nobody in this room that's smarter than all of us put together. So we need to work together, this council included. I'm the head of the GEDC, the chairman of the GEDC, and the town manager, the head of the planning department, and councilors came to that board and said, hey, we could get a little traction if the GEDC could see their way clear to support this in some way, shape, or form. We absolutely wrote a letter. We voted unanimously to support it. Not the actual route, but the economic impact that would be brought to this town. Again, it's not up to me to choose the route. It's not up to our board to choose the route. I understand, Rob. Thank you very much. I'm almost done. But we did that. And now, unfortunately, by what's going on behind the scenes and our legislative body, we're left hanging in the wind. And this is not a good place to be. So the leadership needs to come from you guys. You should be pushing back on anybody who's pushing against it. Anybody who, again, let's finish the studies. Let's let the course of the study take place and do what needs to happen. Short-circuiting this whole process by trying to get a bill passed that stops it all and takes the right-of-way away is the equivalent of a 10-year-old flipping the Monopoly board because they can see the outcome of the game. Don't do that. Let's be smarter than that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. This isn't really my thing usually, I gotta tell you. My name is Eric Bordeaux, and I live down on Straw Road, where the last house on the left, on the end, long, empty road, really. There's about 20 to 25 families that live on that road. Lots of kids, pretty safe road to live on. I'm here to talk about the intersection that leads into our road. I should have come in a long time ago, and I apologize. I wish I could rally more people from my road to come in and express to you just the concerns we have about the intersection of Washburn and South Street that Straw Road empties into. I've followed loosely what's going on with the connector in the paper. I got to tell you that most people on our road, I think, were in favor of it for a number of reasons, but not because it aligned with our politics, simply because it improved the quality of that. It would have improved the quality of the intersection out from our house. We would have definitely seen some development or improvements to that. Years ago, I asked if they could put in a traffic light, and I was met with basically the response of, it's never going to happen because that would bog down the traffic too much, and it's already, pretty much at its limit right there during the commute hours. I can tell you that intersection, we've seen at least 4 accidents over the last couple months. I think if you checked with the police department, they would tell you. I've seen cars going up over the guardrails because they're trying to pass on the right, and they shouldn't. Just taking a left-hand turn to get down into our road, just slowing down to do that and waiting for traffic to pass. It's like you're rolling the dice every time. We have plenty of kids on this road. No hope of them ever getting permission from their parents to take their bike out. You're just not taking it out on South Street at that point. I think if you go further up South Street towards the village, hey, I would love it if my kids could bike into town. My 13-year-old asks me all the time, and I'm like, no, man. And it's not because I don't trust you, it's because it's not safe. It was mentioned earlier, and I think it's just a miracle that the 2 people that went before me mentioned the connector, but he made a really good point. All the traffic that's going over the bypass right now used to go through the town. I remember what that was like, and I didn't even live here. I was in South Portland, commuting into town for work, but now I'm living right next to the bypass, and it's fine, except for the fact that all that commuter traffic is now emptying basically onto the front lawn of our road. And it's dangerous. There's no 2 ways about it. It is a dangerous intersection, and I bet if you traveled that road all the way through the many roundabouts that lead out to Standish and whatnot, you're going to see that is probably, for probably even 10, 15 miles, that's probably the most dangerous intersection on that route, where there's no traffic light. And not trying to criticize, but I never see anybody enforcing speed out there, and I wish we did more often, because people, in the commuter hours, it's a logjam, and outside the commuter hours, it's a raceway. Taking a left-hand turn just to go into town and get groceries is a challenge sometimes. Oftentimes what we do is take a right, drive all the way up to Cumberland Farms, and turn around and come back, because we literally do not feel safe taking a left there. Now, I've heard bits and pieces about how there's developments coming in the area. I know there's something else tonight about what's going in, the zoning change for Washburn. I just happened to see that. Not opposed to any of these things, not opposed to development, but I hope everyone is taking into account that there is just some minor infrastructure things for probably Straw Road and Gary's Way right up the road from us too that are in the same situation where they just can't get out, and there's no other way out. There used to be 2 ways out of Straw Road on Washburn, and one of them was cut off when the roundabout was put in. So I'm here to ask you to take a hard look at that intersection, and the families that live south of the roundabout, between the roundabout and Cumberland Farms, and please take into account whatever we can do to improve that section of road for the families that live right there. I know that they'll appreciate it. On our road alone, we have 3 kids approaching driving age this year and next. And in 3 more years, my son and 4 more kids on top of that will be driving out of that road every day. I'm an experienced driver, and I feel like I'm rolling the dice every time I go through that intersection. We just need some help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice job, neighbor. So that's my neighbor. So I live down the same road, and I'm not going to repeat the points. I will say one of those drivers is my 60-year-old son, and I say that stop sign is straight up optional. I'm like, you look left, you look right, you got a clearing, you hit it, and you don't stop. Anyway, that's not what I got up here to talk about. So yeah, I can confirm everything Eric said. It's a pretty hairy intersection. It can be a danger, David, Luke's on his way up, and, but I'm just going to talk a little bit about what I heard just coming in. Sorry, I was late. I was actually at Luke's concert. About the idea of trying to prevent the bypass going in before we actually get the studies coming back. Eric actually called me to come here to talk about this, and the first question he asked was, how do you feel about the bypass? And I said, I'm rather ambiguous. The reason I was rather ambiguous is because I don't have the facts. And until I have the facts, making a decision for me is impossible. So I can't tell you where I land on whether we should have 900 condo units going on the golf course about a mile from my house. I could say, selfishly, no, but I'm not the only guy who lives here. But I can say making any decision preemptively that could change the face of Gorham or change how we are as a community, like, if we want to change to a village where we've got more people walking and things like that, well, those could all be good ideas, but if we're talking about changing the face of our community, I think that's a decision for the community. And I would encourage the board, like when we're making those large, wide scoping decisions on where we're going, to open that up to maybe a greater vote. I don't even know the process on that, but man, it's a big one. So anyway, that's all I got. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Sir, can you give us your name and address for the record?
No. Sean Williams, 8 Amy's Way, Gorham, Maine.
Thank you.
Chair Lavoie, I would like to make a public comment as well, please. I'll go down there.
Yep.
Thank you. So I'm Lou Sims. I think most folks here know who I am now on this subject we're talking about. I appreciate everybody's comments. I prepared some comments. I want to respond a little bit to what was said. I certainly want to make the process moving forward as inclusive as possible and as many different perspectives as possible. I think that the process thus far has really been driven so much. MTA's led the process all along, and they wanted the toll highway, so we really didn't talk about other options. The example of the bypass, the Rhines bypass that exists, it's a great example of a two-lane road that helped the community. That is not what we are talking about here. We are talking about a 4-lane elevated highway with multiple interchanges that is pulling traffic from the interstate down South Street. The Turnpike Authority's own projections have indicated that it's going to make more traffic on South Street. It's a toll road, so not everybody is going to be willing to pay the toll. So the assumption that the Turnpike is going to make our traffic problems go away, if you look at highway intersections, if you look at these highway expansions like this across the country, that is not what happens. And I hear you that the street is dangerous. The streets don't get safer when you build high-speed interstates next to them. Look across the country, show me the highway exit that you want Gorham to look like. The safety is the most critical thing. High-speed traffic makes more fatalities, and it makes more dangerous crashes. And when we talk about the economic development prospects, further expansion of the interstate highway doesn't guarantee greater prosperity for Gorham. It only guarantees that we're going to have more maintenance liabilities for all of the surrounding road network, because that's what happens when you build a highway with interchanges. It's a magnet for cars. It funnels more cars than you had before. That is proven time and again all over this country. No businesses are allowed to be built along the proposed turnpike because it's a limited access toll highway. If there was more of a local 2-lane bypass option that could, it could connect to a number of different spots, more planning needs to be done. That could actually generate more property tax value for the town and also potentially be safer. So I think that unfortunately there hasn't been enough real attention paid to viable alternatives in the past. And again, part of that's because a lot of the process was essentially led by the Turnpike Authority, which generally builds toll highways. That's what they do. So that's the tool they know how to use. So it's not surprising that they've been telling us all along that a toll highway is the only viable solution for the town.
Mr. Sims?
Yep.
We ask that you wrap it up.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I think that's most of what I wanted to say. I very much welcome more input, and I want to find the solution that works best for the town. So I encourage folks to continue to reach out to me and let me know what you think. And I'm happy to share with you the data I have reviewed to help you understand where I'm coming from, because I don't take this issue lightly, and I have spent as much time as possible to try to make sure what I'm saying is accurate. I recognize that it's not the most popular opinion with some of the folks here, but there's a very large contingent of folks who don't want the highway either, and there are other alternatives. So I hope that we can find a way to investigate those further. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Gary Jordan, Sunrise Lane. Here I have a slight conflict of interest because I'm number 4 on the list for the corner of Washburn for the rezoning. Would like to talk to you later if you're interested. Gorham East-West Connector. My only real comment to the Greater Council is we need to make a decision more than anything. Right now we're growing at the fastest pace we can probably, I don't know, we're trying to control it, but then at the same time, we're not controlling it. We need to pick a direction. If we continue on the growth pattern that we're going on, whether or not it's an east-west connector, whether or not it's a 2-lane road, something needs to change to allow for traffic to flow through that region. I've gone down Washburn numerous times. I agree with all the assessments made that road is not an ideal entrance point for anything. Not to mention the road is limited to 10 tons too, which is also interesting. So it's not an ideal spot. It's got a lot of problems right in that area. I have several employees that work for me. We all drive into South Portland every single day. We've adjusted our work schedule because of the commute times. It doesn't make sense. And when people say that people are taking different routes, I'm one of those guys that takes a different route. I go down Day Road, I take Brackett, I take Saco, and then I shoot up Smiling Hill Farm Road. That's what I do. It's the fastest way to get around all the traffic. That's not practical. Now, once again, I'm not going to profess to be a traffic expert on what the best path forward is, but we cannot continue. And I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, and I acknowledge that because I'm pro-growth. I really am. But if we're going to have the growth, we have to have a traffic solution. I'm concerned that most of the solutions that are being presented that are alternatives, they're good partial solutions, but we're growing at a pace much faster than that today. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no more members of the public, I will close public comments. And now we'll move on to councilor communications. I'm going to start to my right with Councilor Siegel.
Thank you, Lavoy. First, I would like to congratulate the Gorham Village Alliance. They had an awesome networking event with all the various business owners and other interested parties in town. It was great. It was very well attended. The Sidecar Wine Bar was a fantastic venue for it. And it was just a lovely event all around. So thank you to the Gorham Village Alliance for everything everything you all do for the town and the village. It was great. Keep it up. I also want to acknowledge in regards to one of the public communications, the bill, it's LD 1020, which is the bill in regards to the Gorham Connector. The public hearing is April 3rd at 1 p.m. That's April 3rd at 1 p.m. You can sign up to do Zoom testimony, or you can do written testimony if you want to give your opinion. And lastly, I do want to respond to what I heard was just a little confusion on positions regarding the connector. And so I just want to be very upfront and say that I am against the connector in its current form. I hope I've made that clear, but it is, I figure, helpful to be very, very, very clear about it. I think there are much, much better solutions, including one that we're even discussing tonight. There are other opportunities for us that don't involve spending so much money. By the MTA's own study, it will save 4 minutes. It will save a driver 4 minutes. That is their own study, their own words, and it is a toll highway. I want you to all just think for yourselves, how much would you be willing to spend to save 4 minutes? Because for me, I just will hit avoid tolls and go the other way. And my concern is, they say that the toll pays for it, but if it doesn't, well then the public foots the bill. The price keeps going up, and these things concern me. And I think there are better alternatives. Building more roads won't fix that. I live on, for those of you who don't know, I live on Main Street. I live on 25. I can tell you just how many trucks go by every single day. And the bypass that was done many years ago, I think was incredible. It really shifted the traffic outside of going down 114 to go west out 25. But for those of you that don't know, there was a phase 2 that never happened, where it was supposed to wrap around and go back, touching 25 so that someone could take it so that they could avoid the village entirely. That part never happened. Growth has, of course, occurred since then, and that can't happen at this point. But what we have is a portion of the town that is absolutely bypassed, but still a portion that is not. I would love more than anything for there not to be trucks going outside my house, but I understand the reality of the situation. I live on Main Street. There are going to be cars driving by, and, well, we need better solutions than the Turnpike. Thank you all, councilors, for letting me go through that. And thank you all.
Councilor Sims.
Yes, thank you. The Capital Improvements Committee, Economic Development Committee is going to be meeting next on Thursday, the 17th of April at 11 a.m. We're planning to begin a discussion with the superintendent and the school committee representatives regarding their plans for a bond request for November. I also wanted to just thank once more, or I'll thank them again, the Fiscal Sustainability Committee. We've got our last meeting on April the 14th. We're working on some recommendations and some ways to keep that great work moving forward. I really want to thank the community volunteers on that committee. And I would just, to a couple of the prior points made, I know we are all worried about the traffic and the traffic Armageddon. Maine Department of Transportation's own annual average daily traffic counts in that area on the overlap of 22 and 114. They have literally gone down slightly over the past 20 years, despite the fact that Gorham's population has grown by over 4,000, and there has been additional development in Buxton and Standish. By an independent research study, Portland, the greater Portland area's traffic is actually less congested than that of similar sized population centers in other parts of this country that have more highways. So again, I understand the concerns, and everyone's been promised that the Turnpike is going to solve all of our problems, and I caution us to take too much of that. We could find ourselves very disappointed if that Turnpike gets built and everything that was promised to us doesn't come to fruition. And I think that's a very likely outcome. And that's why I'm doing what I am. Thank you.
Councilor Willis.
Briefly, I just want to draw the public's attention to a number of exciting new businesses that have opened in the village or are opening in the next couple months. We've got everything from a candy shop to a smoothie shop and a Thai place and a number of other businesses. So as you're traveling through Gorham's Village in the next couple of months, please keep your eyes open and support them, and we welcome you to the town of Gorham. Thank you.
Councilor Kush.
Nothing today, thank you.
Councilor Gagnon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good luck on your first time out as running a meeting, by the way. So I've submitted a draft email from a FOIA request from Councillor Sims to the town clerk that I'd like submitted in the record as a few pieces of information in it I think are relevant, and I think the disclosure of these may have changed some of the votes of the council or the opinions of the council on development. The email was crafted in January of 2023. It indicates that Councillor Sims was working with Senator Brenner to do a state-sponsored legislation. That legislation was contingent on hopefully us making a decision. It also indicates that the Turnpike expansion was a priority, only receiving 2 sticker votes of people wanting to address it. So I submit that as a example of the workings that are happening behind the scenes. It also shows that there may have been some communications between councilors that would circumvent our council rules and state laws for meetings. So that being said, in regards to the Turnpike Spur, I'm not an expert on traffic and traffic studies. That's why we hire experts. Countless studies have been done. A lot of effort has been placed into this. We've taken the opportunities presented to us to utilize as many state and federal funds to develop our roads to make them safer, pedestrian-friendly, and bike-friendly. The problem here is this Turnpike Spur would do a lot more than just alleviate traffic. It would also improve the surrounding roads as part of the construction of the Turnpike Spur, which would include Brackett, McClellan, 114, and probably 22. We will now be losing that money, and instead we will be paying through our taxpayers for improvements for these roads. We are moving away from a model that we've utilized very well in the past, and it's been subverted by frankly, legislators that have taken it upon themselves, one that doesn't even live in Gorham but represents people, in removing these properties forever. If you read the legislation 1020, it says that all properties will be sold back or gifted to the municipality. If it does that, there will never be a connector to Gorham, ever. This will end any chance for us to get a connector. I have talked to Peter Mills, I've talked to others. If we lose this, they will move the connector down to Saco and go up through Buxton. They will benefit from it, not us. This is the problem we're experiencing. We're missing the opportunities. And finally, our industrial park is empty and up for sale again. Anybody in the public can put 2 and 2 together why all of a sudden all of our properties in the industrial park fell through. It's because the Turnpike Spur is gone. Thank you.
All right. So for me, it'd be Open Space and Trails Steering Committee will be meeting on April 23rd at 6 p.m. That's the next meeting for them. And the Finance Committee meeting will be meeting on April 30th at 3 p.m. Both meetings are slated to be held in Conference Room A, which is directly behind the chambers. And I'm going to steal town manager's thunder for 2 months in a row now and remind people to give blood. And we'll move on to the town manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. In no particular order, but municipal staff have been working very hard to fine-tune the municipal budget, which we anticipate will be released to the council this coming week, and then the public shortly thereafter. An emphasis is maintaining services, keeping the mill rate down, as well as working with the school department to find avenues where we can save money together or reduce that impact. So that's a theme in this year's budget. I think the council should be very happy with our progress to date. Couple other random items. This one I plugged from Public Works' website, or Facebook account. I've attended this. Cumberland County Regional Communications Center does a phenomenal Touch a Truck event for public safety. That's on the 19th of this month, just over the river at the Communications Center. And our folks from Public Safety as well as Public Works will have a lot of our equipment and personnel there. Reminder, the 21st, our municipal offices will be closed in observance of Patriots Day. The 27th of this month is the annual Gorham Cleans Up event. I believe this is the 5th year. It's very well attended, great event that benefits the community. If you're looking to volunteer, please look to our website. Street sweeping was ongoing. We have a brush collection date that I did not write down that is on our town website. We'll get that pushed out as that comes up. And we're also hiring a variety, like everyone right now, we're looking for people to fill positions, especially a lot of our summer crews. So as I'm sure the school department is, trying to steal your thunder, apply to Gorham Rec or Gorham Public Works if somebody's looking for a seasonal job. Lastly, I want to publicly congratulate Zach in our rec department. He was selected as the 2025 Maine Recreation Association's Young Professional of the Year, which is a pretty big deal. And just received that award a couple weeks ago, and I just want to highlight his service to the town of Gorham. Thank you.
Congratulations, Zachary. Next up, we have the school committee report.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Perkins. I serve as the chair of the committee currently. Just going through our update, which is getting passed down. The state legislature approved a biennial budget that includes continued funding of state education costs at 55% for the coming years. This is good news for public schools and our communities. It looks like our projected state subsidy figures for FY26 are solid, and we can continue to move forward, anticipating few, if any, changes between now and the budget approval timelines later this spring. On that note, just an update on our budget. We had our 4th meeting last night. The focus of that meeting was understanding revenues and making decisions about what final figures to use in our revenues to offset taxpayer expenses as much as possible. We discussed some very promising increasing revenues from this year for state agency client funding, CDS funding, Medicare funding, as well as GSEA funding. We want to make sure that our new folks, in particular on the committee, understood state subsidy figures, and we discussed use of undesignated fund balance. We will vote on the proposed budget at our regular meeting on April 9th, and from there, proposed budget booklets will be delivered to the town council April 16th. We have a joint meeting with the town council on April 29th, and again, if needed, on May 6th, before the town council vote on the budget May 13th, and the public validation referendum vote on June 10th. All right, take a breath after all that. At our last meeting, we also reviewed our draft revised 10-year capital plan. The committee had some revisions to make. From there, the draft plan will be brought to the town's facilities committee, as Councilor Sims mentioned at the April meeting. Our hope is to gather feedback from the council and make appropriate changes to the plan before bringing it back to the school committee for approval later in May or June. We also voted to approve moving forward with proposals for the high school project, which was approved by voters this past November. There were 2 key parts of this project that will start later this spring. One is to begin the addition to the high school cafeteria. That's a brick and mortar addition, and will be the first part of the project to get started. After that, groundwork will begin on the modular expansion. The total project will not be completed for occupancy until fall of '26. Congratulations to our One Act Play students at the high school who won their regional competition and placed 3rd overall in the state. Another great year of drama and theater at the high school. And finally, spring athletics have begun as well. Schedules are available on our website.
Thank you. Any questions for Chair Perkins? Yep. Councilor Gagnon?
We live in a crazy time at the moment for grants, particularly in the federal arena. There were some grant cuts for some HHS areas that I think had some impact with schools. Are we susceptible to any of that? Do you know? Or
not to my knowledge. I will just phone a friend here with Superintendent Perry, who can give you more information.
She's very knowledgeable. Thank you. Yeah.
friend, nice. So at this point in time, we've not been impacted by any of the federal cuts that have been discussed. There has been some conversation around, IDEA and ESEA funding, but that seems to be solid, at least through September in terms of funding. So we've not been impacted at this point.
Yeah, and you've probably identified the ones, and I don't think you need to go into length, but you have identified the ones that may be troublesome and.
Yeah, some are certainly more troublesome than others. We really don't carry a lot of federal grant funds other than IDEA and ESEA. Those are our two major ones. And so other small ones would have minimal to any impact at all if they were removed. But those other two big ones, those are the ones we're keeping an eye on.
You were hiding back there. I thought that was an April Fool's joke. From
Well, it could have been my sweatshirt too. I look like a student maybe.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Willis?
I think sometimes in this room, there's a lot of difficult conversations and challenging ones that happen. I know the high school had a challenge, I think it was earlier this week, and a local business stepped up and helped with that. For anybody who's not aware, would you mind telling that story?
Sure. Yeah, we discovered some small friends in the cafeteria, some ants, and were unable to serve breakfast and lunch on that day. And on very, very short notice, the amazing folks at Mr. Bagel stepped up to supply breakfast and lunch. Breakfast. So thank you very much to them, and thank you for the reminder to mention it.
Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you.
Go shop at Mr. Bagel.
All right. Public hearing number 1 on item 2025-4-2. Public hearing to hear comments on a proposal to issue a renewal massage license to Heather Terriot and a new massage license to Jennifer Parent, Kendra Munro, and Rachel Bombard, administrator sponsored.
Is now open. Public hearing is now closed.
Proposed order 25-34, order that the town council issue a renewal massage license to Heather Terriot and a new massage license to Jennifer Parent, Kendra Munro, and Rachel Bombard.
Is there a motion? So moved. Councillor Kutch. Is there a second? Councillor Sims. Any comments, discussion? Councillor Siegel.
Thank you very much, Chair. Have the final background checks made it through?
No, we're going to hold off on issuing the license until the background check comes through. Detective Rappolt said he was working on them.
Sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Could you please repeat?
So I can, thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I received verbal confirmation. They have not been delivered to the town clerk yet. So if the council is okay, contingent upon successful background checks, I think at our level, we're perfectly fine with that. But they have not been. There was a delay from PD getting us the actual background check, so it's entirely up to the council. But we would not recommend issuing them without that in hand. Thank you.
And just to clarify, would that require an amendment of the motion?
If it's a general consensus from if there's no objection from the council, that'll be the direction that the town clerk and I will take.
Any objection? I think we're all good with it. I see 6 nods in favor of it. So we can now vote on it. All those in favor? Opposed? 6.
Public hearing number 2 on item 2025-4-3. Public hearing to hear comments on a proposal to issue a medical marijuana license to John Leparelli, Forest City Organics, 11 Gorham Industrial Parkway, Unit G, property owned by JK Properties, administrative sponsored.
Public hearing is now open. Seeing no one, public hearing is now closed.
Proposed order 2535, order that the town council issue a medical marijuana license to John Leparella, Forest City Organics, 11 Gorham Industrial Parkway, Unit G, property owned by JK Properties.
Before I ask for a motion on this one, I'm going to turn to the town manager. I believe there's an update on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. The staff will be recommending that you just table this one. The fire department was not able to gain access to the premises to conduct their inspections. Is that correct, Chief? Still? Correct. Yes. So our recommendation is you take action on it tonight and table it until such a time as that has been completed.
Okay. So what do we go through? I'd make a motion. All right. Is there a motion? Councillor Kutch, is there a second?
We're making the motion just suggested by the town manager. Table.
Second.
Counselor Sims. Any discussion on that?
Just to be clear, this motion was to table the item.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second to table. Looks like so let's vote on that motion. All those in favor? 6 yeas.
Public hearing number 3 on item 2025-4-4. Public hearing to hear comments on proposal to amend the zoning map to change map 22, lot 7 on Washburn Road from the suburban residential district to the South Gorham Crossroads district. Administrator sponsored.
Public hearing is now open. Come to the mic, state your name and address.
Hi, Gary Jordan, 10 Sunrise Lane in Gorham. One quick clarifying comment. I just want to make sure, because Kathy would be very mad at me. Kathy is the owner of 22-7 on this map. The way the current proposed is written, it indicates all of 22-7. That is obviously not the intent. 22-7 needs to remain suburban residential, as that's a different lot. The town planning board, specifically when they did their motion, they indicated the northern portion of 22-7 is the proposed. This, sometime in the near future, the assessor's office will generate a new tax map lot, and then we can update it with the correct data. But because we did the purchase and sale agreement after 1 April last year, we're just waiting for the tax assessor to catch up. So just want to make sure that's clear. And then I would just like to readdress, definitely going forward, Washburn Drive does need some help and support. This does not help that, and it is definitely my intention to minimize and honestly, I can't use it for what I want if I'm using Washburn. So I'll be working extensively with MDOT to find out what we can do to access off of South Street and or, well, ideally South Street. So hopefully that might even help out in the future. I don't know, but that's my goal anyways at the end of the day. Pending any questions also as the applicant for the board. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Seeing no one else, public hearing is now closed.
Proposal order 2536, ordered that the town council amend the zoning map to change map 22, lot 7 on Washburn Road from the suburban residential district to the South Gorham Crossroads district.
Is there a motion? Councilor Willis?
Second.
Councilor Siegel. Discussion? Councilor Gagnon?
I think this is a good addition where driving by it, it looks like it could be a potentially good access point from the Gorham bypass. The Gorham bypass, as we've indicated before, is a non-cut road, so that'll be a little difficult to probably persuade any change, but I would be looking forward to it. My view on development currently is if the Turnpike Spur is not to go through this week or it moves forward, I would probably be looking to sponsor an item to do a building moratorium. So, thank you.
Councilor Willis?
I guess just a clarifying question for the town manager around the recommendation from planning. And for the record, our map properly reflects the zoning that Mr. Jordan is referencing. But if you'd like us to amend the order to state it differently.
Yeah. Thank you. I don't think it's needed. It's up to the council. When it went to the planning board, it had the whole property. You are adopting the map. So we're very clear on what that is and the parcel. To the applicant's point, the parcel number hasn't been generated yet because it's not the new year. We'll have a dash whatever it is. So I am very confident that that will be applied correctly, but it's entirely up to the council.
Mr. Chair, point of clarity. For this, if there's any dispute of the map, we can say approved as presented and have the clerk note that in the minutes so that it's the one that we're representing and seeing.
Any more comments? Councilor Siegel.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I do just want to really make this clear. If the owner at 22-7 is watching, the zoning on your parcel is not changing. It is not changing. Your zoning is not changing.
Counselor Sims?
Yeah, I think it'd be, I mean, the words that I'm looking at on the page say that change map 22 lot 7. So it doesn't specify any distinction. So I'm willing to go along if everybody else is comfortable with it, but I just want to make sure we're actually, we all want the same thing here. I just want to make sure that we're getting it.
Would want that to be amended.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'll make a motion to amend the item to make the correct map and lot number.
Just be clear, there is no other map and lot.
There's no map.
It's a portion of 22 of 22
I
7.
can
We
tell
put
the council.
adjacent to, would that help?
Want to, the northern section of
Yeah.
map 22, lot 7, I think, like the planning board did, that's perfectly fine. But I can assure you, the correct zoning, if approved, will be applied.
Okay, so can we say, I'll take a stab at the amendment to the portion of 22-7 that is indicated on the zoning map provided in the council agenda. Only the portion in the highlighted area will be changed.
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a second on that amendment from
Did you
Counselor
get that,
Sims.
Lori?
Lori?
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks. Thank you.
Okay, any discussion on that? Seeing none, we'll vote on the amendment. All those in favor? 6 yeas. Now I'm going back to the original as amended. No more discussion on that, right? Any more discussion on that? So now we will vote on the original item as amended. All those in favor? 6 yeas.
Public hearing number 4 on item 2023 9-16. Public hearing to hear comments on proposal to amend the Land Use and Development Code for technical updates to Chapter 2, Section 2-5, minimum standards for design and construction of streets and ways. Administrative sponsor.
Chair Lavoy, could just, I motion to waive the reading due to
Not yet.
confusion? Oh, okay,
After,
second.
yeah.
Got it.
We do public
Oh,
comment
public hearing
first.
Got it.
I will open up public hearing for this item. Seeing no one, public hearing is now closed.
Proposed Order 25-37, order that the Town Council amend the Land Use and Development Code for technical updates to Chapter 2, Section 2-5, minimum standards for design and construction of streets and ways as follows.
Counselor Sims,
Motion to waive the reading due to length.
is there a second? Counselor Willis? All those in favor? 6 yeas. And now we'll have a motion on the item. Do I have a motion? Counselor Sims, do you have a second?
Second.
Counselor Siegel.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. This one is mostly administrative in nature. There's other components in the Land Use and Development Code that reference these areas. There were some minor changes made, but it's redundant in these tables. It's gone to the planning board, now coming back to the council for adoption. Thank you.
Any comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? 6 yeas.
Item 2025 4-6, action to consider authorizing the issue of a bond that was approved by the voters on November 5th, 2024, administrative sponsor. Proposed Order 2538, whereas the town desires to issue its general obligation bonds in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $9,494,575 and to appropriate the proceeds therefore to finance the project described in this order.
Chair Lavoy.
Counselor Sims.
Motion to waive the reading due to length.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Counselor, second by Willis. All those in favor? 6 yeas to waive the reading. Now, is there a motion on the floor? Counselor Kutch, is there a second?
I'll second.
Counselor Siegel.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. This is an administrative item that allows staff to go out and actually get the bonds for the November referendum questions last fall. We waited probably an extra month or two than longer than we normally would, just see what would happen with the markets. And then obviously, as everyone knows, it's all over the place. So again, administrative in nature. One thing this does allow is the school department to start, there's bonding rules in place, but they can spend some of the money ahead of time for the project as we're getting the bond on the market. Thank you.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? 6 yeas. You guys are making this too easy on me.
2025-1-6, action to consider amending the Land Use and Development Code with regards to backlots, ordinance committee sponsor. Proposed order 2539, order that the town council forwards to the planning board for review and recommendation, amending the Land Use and Development Code as follows. Chapter 1 zoning regulations, section 1-1, general, D, compliance required. 8 backlots, 1 backlot may be created from any lot of record which conforms to the lot requirements herein. And D, the backlot has perpetual deeded access to a publicly accepted street or a private road. This access shall be a minimum of 30 feet in width and obtained by extension of the backlot to the public street or through provisions of an easement or ownership of the minimum driveway width required for the number of dwelling units on the backlot.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councillor Sims, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Councillor Siegel. Ordinance or?
I'm happy to. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. This item, originally, as the council may recall, backlots were not allowed in the town of Gorham without essentially a private way. The council moved forward language that allowed for backlots, and it was discovered after a couple months that some of that language is cumbersome and/or over-aggressive on the easement requirements, which in some cases were worse than a private way. That being said, the ordinance committee looked at it, made modifications, essentially slimmed the requirements down to a 30-foot easement, whereas before you would have the easement and the side setbacks and a number of other factors. So this will go to the planning board, and it also requires or allows for an easement and/or ownership over the property versus before it was just an easement. Thank you.
Okay. Any comments? Questions? Councillor Siegel?
Thank you. I'd just like to thank the member of the public that brought this to our attention. I always appreciate when people with their expertise notice when things can be changed, made a little bit simpler, or in this case, just very simple changes to make it better for the town of Gorman, more easily usable. So thank you to that member of the public, and I encourage others, if you see any issues, please email any one of us as well.
Seeing no more comments, all those in favor? 6 yeas.
Item 2025-4-7, action to consider the purchase of property located at 77 County Road, Councilor Sims sponsored. Proposed order 25-40, order that the town manager is authorized to enter into a purchase and sales agreement for approximately 0.58 acres of land, including a building located at the intersection of routes 114 and 22 at 77 County Road for the sum of $185,000 to be allocated from the town's land acquisition account, and be it further ordered that the town manager is authorized to have the existing building demolished from the property by the Public Works Department.
Is there a motion? Councillor Sims, do I have a second? Councillor Willis. Councillor Sims?
Thank you, Chair Lavoie. I drive by this property frequently. A couple weeks ago, noticed it was up for sale. It's an older house at the corner. It's in disrepair. It's about a little bit more than half an acre at the intersection of 114 and 22. You can see them in the maps. Obviously, it's a highly traveled intersection. We've got data from Police Chief Sanborn indicating that it's the highest crash location in Gorham by a significant margin. Struck me as a good opportunity for the town to at least take a look here. The house looks to be a teardown job. If we were to acquire the property, we could ask the Department of Transportation to take a look at the potential for designing safety improvements at the intersection. If we are in ownership of the parcel, it will likely, I've been led to believe that it will make it more likely for that DOT to put attention to it. That's the basics here. Right now, we're generating The parcel generated only $2,000 in property tax revenues last year, or this year, $2,271. So, certainly mindful of wanting to have as much land on the tax rolls as possible. Again, with the specific location here, seems like it's worth taking a look at this, and I'm open to further discussion with the council as to what they think might be the best way forward. Thank you.
Before we go into council discussion, I would like to open this up to the public for public comment. Should anyone want to speak on this item? Seeing that there's still several of you in the crowd here, and this is the last agenda item.
Thank you. Mark Curtis, Narragansett Street. I emailed you all this week. You guys all know how I feel, but I'm going to make it very well known in the public. I definitely don't believe that this is a good expenditure of our tax dollars. Councilor Sims, who has sponsored this item, has been a cheerleader for more studies and more design and more review for other traffic-related items. And this, I find it difficult, the juxtaposition of that position to slow a project down and then to jump the process to buy a piece of property when there is no design, there is no report, there is no study that says it would even be needed. When you call the DOT, town manager will attest to this, I'm sure, they don't buy land on speculation. The reason they don't is because you don't know where the road's going to go. You don't know what you're going to do with it. So they've been burned more than once, I'm sure, as this town has been burned more than once with speculative land purchases. I can think of at least 3 off the top of my head. We're talking Preble Street, where we bought a piece of property to build a parking lot. Never ended up doing that, ended up selling that at a loss. We went down to New Portland Road, bought a piece of property because we were going to put an access road through to the post office, determined that we couldn't do that. That place froze, we sold that at a loss. How many of these do we need to do before we decide that, and don't even get me started on the industrial park of buying land on speculation and where we've ended up with that, right? So I think this is a bad idea. And again, I appreciate the problem solving coming out of Councilor Sims. I get it, I understand, and at first glance, it definitely looks like something that the road might go there. But I think it's a bad idea. If you want to spend 185 grand on something, take that 185 grand, put it in an account, hold on to it. And then when the DOT shows up and they want to do something with it and they need a local contribution, give them the 185 grand. Because who knows where that's going to go. I don't have a problem with spending tax dollars to improve traffic or safety. I'm all for that. But I think this is a bad idea just because of that. I mean, it doesn't lend itself to that solution. We don't know where the road's going to go. We don't know what the design's going to be. We don't know how long it's going to last. Not to mention, and I believe the town manager can speak to this, if the town takes it, or the town buys it, excuse me, and then we tear the house down, and then the DOT wants it, the DOT is not going to count that value, not the money we spent or the money we spent to tear it down, towards the local contribution for what's owed from the town of Gorham to the DOT. So that's money that we've spent on speculation. They will say, thank you very much, town of Gorham, we appreciate the gift, even when we didn't offer the gift. They're going to pressure us to give it to them. And we're going to want to do that because they're going to spend millions of dollars to improve that roadway. Not to mention the other option here includes, and I want to make sure we're clear, the Turnpike Spur, as Councilor Gagnon rightfully said, included a ton of other improvements around the rest of those roads. So it wasn't just that one spur, it's all the improvements that go along with the traffic movement that's going to get there. There is no magic bucket of money. You guys know that, right? I mean, I know you all know that. We don't have $200 or $300 million we're sitting on waiting to figure out how we want to spend it, whether we want to build a spur or we want to widen 22 and take 45 houses or so to do it. The only money that's coming, the DOT doesn't have a bucket of money to give us to widen 22. The only money that's there is the Turnpike Spur money. I'm not necessarily advocating for the spur. What I'm saying is we don't have the money to do any of this wish. And you know what they say, wish in one hand, something else in the other, and you end up with what you've got. So, and if they do widen 22, just like somebody already mentioned, they're not going to allow curb cuts. That's gone. They're going to make that a high-speed road to move traffic and commerce from point A to point B. Your dream, this council's dream, my also, dream that we could have another spot of town that is an economic engine to this town will disappear because there'll be no need to run water and sewer down through that section of town because there'll be no curb cuts allowed, no businesses allowed other than what's there. And as those die off, they won't let new ones come in. They're not going to let you do it. We've seen it. That's why there's no curb cuts on the bypass. When they build a road like that, they say no. They want to move traffic. They don't want to, they're not here to spur development in our town. So I think this is a bad idea. It's way too premature. You want to do a study? Do a study. You want to do a design? Do a design. Let the DOT do their work. Call them up and tell them they think that we think we should move the intersection. Build a rotary, do something. But to jump on this because it's available, bad idea. And again, my understanding is that there's more than one offer on this property. Great. Let some private owner buy it, do what they want with it, and if the DOT needs it, hopefully that person has built it up to $1 million value, and they take it then. But other than that, I think it's a bad idea. Just my opinion. I'm one person. That's all I am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peter Mason, 35 Ruby Street. I won't repeat what Mark said, but I can't emphasize enough. I mean, the town's track record on speculative real estate is poor at best. And to speculate and buy this where we don't know where the road's going, it could get shifted 500 feet, 1,000 feet in either direction. I think it's a poor choice. And I guess I get behind it, but anyone up here, if you want to give me an example of a piece of land in the last 10 years that the town's bought that's been lucrative, then let me know. I'm all ears. But I can't think of one, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot. But, I mean, I think you got to stop and think about that for a minute. Thank you.
Seeing no one else, we'll close public comment, and we'll open up to councillor discussion.
Thanks. Yeah, I do. Just one point that it's been suggested a couple times here that the Turnpike Authority is going to pay for all of our road improvements all around the area. That's a promise that has been made. The cost estimates for that were given once. Since then, the costs have gone up significantly. So the more the costs go up, the less and less of those promises MTA is actually going to be able to keep with the town of Gorham. So I think we need to recognize that. So I think we just need to be careful. We hope that they will pay for it. Whether they actually will remains to be seen. Separate from that, though, I think those points are well noted. Again, I still think there's it's worth considering. I'm not going to die on my sword to buy this thing if nobody else wants to, and if they don't think it's a wise choice. It's been suggested that we make an amendment to make an offer back to the seller with an escalation addendum agreeing to pay, we'll say, $2,500 more than the next highest offer. And in that way, we could be as smart as possible with the taxpayer money that we would use on this. So I think that's a wise suggestion. So I would make that motion to consider that amendment to the order. And we can discuss that if we like.
So there's a motion to amend the order. Is there a second on that motion? Is everyone clear with what Councillor Sims said? Is there a second on that?
I would second that.
There is a second. So now
we could discuss that a little more.
The amended.
Just to clarify, that would be, so we, as opposed to paying the current offer price, we would only pay as much as what's been offered, plus $2,500.
Go ahead, Councillor Willis.
Do you want me to restate that just for the record? Yeah. So for the record, as it currently sits, we have received an offer from the seller to pay $185 to buy the property. Also, I guess for the record, I think it's public record that we spoke at length in executive council beforehand. I think there are some concerns with the council in terms of moving forward with this. So there was a discussion around being smart with our money, potentially still pursuing the option to buy this, but doing so by offering $2,500 more than what the highest offer they currently have in hand is, if there are current offers in hand, so that we're not overspending on the parcel if we choose to go forward with it.
Yeah. So if we vote on this amendment, we can still discuss the actual decision after we take that vote.
Councilor Gagnon.
So now that the public knows that that's our position, anybody can go and make an offer to make us jack out the cost of the acquisition of 185 plus $2,500.
May I speak to
Councilor
that?
Wallace? Yes.
We would put a cap on our escalation addendum. So if somebody offers any more than that, then it would be.
Right, what I'm saying is that now that they know our strategy publicly, somebody could say, I'll make an offer, and we're stuck at 185 again because.
If it's a real offer, we'd have to pay 185.
Yeah, well, 185 plus the 250, right, 2,500 you guys are talking about, or up to the ceiling. Regardless, they now know what we're doing, and so any escalation that we put in, anybody that's related to the entity that owns it can put a real-life bid in, and then we would have to counter it to get to 185. So there's no real savings, potentially.
Fair enough. It was a suggestion that I thought was worth bringing forward and discussing.
So we do have a motion for an amendment on the floor. Any more discussion on this? Councilor Siegel?
Thank you. If I could just clarify, what if the other highest offer has an escalation? What happens in that regard?
I believe that was direct.
Sorry, I guess,
Yep.
yes, through you to Councilor Willis.
Welcome to negotiating on live television, right? the wonders of this. So 2 competing escalation addendums could continue to escalate until one drops out, essentially. So if somebody else goes to that number, we would both be at that number, and the seller could make a decision on which one they would accept. Does that make sense?
Is our amendment written to qualify for that?
We can,
Saying as.
if we can revise it if needed. Town manager.
So we can't revise it now. We need to
You gotta
discuss
vote
the
on
current one on the floor
then we
and
can do
vote
it
on
now.
it.
Yep, sure.
And go back to the original.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. So the way I take it, escalation clause, $2,500, highest offer up to $185,000.
Correct.
Correct, we're all on the same page as what you have an amendment. What I'm going to throw out there, and I'm not going to bring up, I think the council's, debated the merits. I don't know where you're going to land on this, but wherever you land on this, at the staff level, the direction that we're going to take is whether it happens or doesn't happen, and ultimately is successful, we need to make the most of it, and we need to make the most of it as soon as economically possible in the best interest of the town, so that the town gets the most bang for the buck. Again, whether it happens or doesn't happen. So I know the council has debated and will continue to debate the merits of, I think, the points that were brought up. But regardless of what happens big picture, we want to get the most bang for the buck out of that intersection. And maybe it includes this, maybe it doesn't include this. I'm not trying to sway you either way, but at the staff level, we're not going to just sit back and be passive with whatever your decision ultimately is. Thank you.
Okay. So let's vote on the amendment. Councilor Willis?
Can we ask questions, or do we need to move to the amendment? I mean, I've got questions to the town manager. Based on what's been said, but it was mentioned earlier in terms of sort of a gift to DOT or MTA or whoever may be involved in the future. Is that current operating procedure from those bodies, or would we expect to be, if we spend 185 plus some number to tear it down, would we be expecting sort of reimbursement or money back from them at that time?
Thank you. I think what was said was fairly accurate. So the town could get money from, let's just say DOT does a project in the next 5 years, land has to be taken in a variety of places in that intersection. Yes, DOT, we could require DOT to give us some fair market value for what they're taking, and it's fair market value based on the value of the lot at that time. So they're not going to factor in, it's unlikely it'll be more, but they're not going to factor in what the house was and the tear down costs. And I think it is correct to assume that there's always going to be pressure on the municipality to speed up the project wherever possible. So I think this could be set across the board. If a municipality is working with DOT and the town has land, you don't want to delay that with land acquisition and that process. So there is a tendency to try to say, take the land, we just want the intersection improvement. So that's a factor moving forward that the council will want to consider.
And one thing you sort of hinted at there, so they could take a portion of the lot, that they might take a slice of it, and that may leave us with some unusable land, potentially, if we end up with this, based on setbacks and what could be built there. Is that?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's not to say the town couldn't move forward with his own project. We can do that. Typically, we don't because we try to leverage whatever state funds are out there or PACS funds. But yes, we could be left with, a design could use the whole property, part of the property, or none of the property. As we've discussed, it's an unknown at this time.
I've talked a lot. I'm curious if others have a take. I mean, I'll, for the public record, I started really in favor of this. I see this as an opportunity to improve a problem area that we know has some issues with accidents, and we got information from the chief on the accident counts out there. I have a lot of reservations to public comments points about what's happened in the past with land acquisitions, with building acquisitions, and nothing happening. If I felt like we were going to make real improvements on this immediately, I think it's a no-brainer. I worry about where it's going. Regardless of what happens tonight, I see this as two different issues from the connector. I think connector happens, there needs to be traffic improvements there. Connector doesn't happen, there needs to be traffic improvements there. So just for everybody in Gorham who may be listening to this, whatever action this council takes, I don't believe it has anything to do with the connector. It's about this intersection and can we help the traffic here. So I'd be curious to hear what others have to say.
Councilor Siegel.
Thank you. We're currently discussing the amendment right now. That's correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Back to the item.
So I'm going to wait until we're back to the main discussion before talking about that.
Great.
Okay.
Cool. All right.
And
Councilor Sims.
Could we just, can we restate the motion so we're fully clear? It's been, do you want me to do that, or Ephraim, do you want to do that? Or do you want to?
Thank you. I'm happy to summarize it. Lori will write down the details, but you're amending the specifics of the offer to allow for a escalation clause of $2,500 above the next highest asking price or offer on the property, up to $185,000.
Thank you.
We're all good with that, so let's vote on that. All those in favor? 4 yeas, opposed? 2. Exactly. And now we're back to the original order. Let's continue discussion.
You want me to go?
Councilor Gagnon.
Okay, back to the original discussion. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I feel seen with some of the items that have been talked about in the past, particularly a couple items that we purchased and failed on. I openly talk about things that don't work because it improves future things. One of them was the parking by Roby Gym. It was supposed to actually be to expand the park if it wasn't going to be used as a parking area. Council saw fit to sell it. There's nothing you can do when you have a new council, right? So same thing here. The great intentions of purchasing something before anything is drawn up is just a cart before the horse in this area. I do believe that there needs to be changes in the area for traffic remediation. We had a discussion about it, particularly on 237 in Libby, where a fatality happened 2 years ago. We wanted a roundabout or some other traffic calming changes in that area. 2 years later, we still do not have that. But now we're changing priorities, saying that that section that's seeing elevated speeds and elevated traffic no longer matters, and this area now matters more, that we want to move the $185,000 that we have in our piggy bank to purchase land that has no design, has no intention of being done anytime within the next 5 or 10 years. The cost of it, of the project beyond this, is substantial. I think we probably need to invest in it and invest in smart streetlights that connect to the ones further down so that it helps move traffic along. That would be a Scarborough ask and not a town of Gorham ask. But overall in this, when it comes to traffic and changes and properties, I've seen it firsthand. I've seen my mother's property taken by eminent domain for street widening. I've seen my grandparents' property taken by eminent domain for street widening. This is one of those areas where probably that would be the case for the MDOT, like they would do for any of the other 45 houses that are down the street to widen 114 for future traffic. So do I think we should spend the money now? I'd rather wait and see what the MDOT has for a study that the Maine Department of Transportation has given to the highway or whoever's doing the new study for 114 and 25 first. If the property gets purchased by somebody and flipped, they're going to have to deal with that down the road. And it's probably why it hasn't been sold and been on the market for an extended period of time. So there's a lot here. I definitely want better street signage and stuff. And I'll even say, for my final point, it's been 3 years, or almost 3 years, and the light in front of Cumbies on Main Street for that finished project still isn't there with the wire sticking out. So let's start focusing on finishing stuff and looking at safety items and stop dropping the ball on it. And this is one that I think the ball will get dropped eventually. Because, again, 2 years for Libby, 3 years in asking for Cumbies in front of it with that light. That's a safety issue for people moving at the middle of the night, and so on and so forth. Right? Less projects, more completions. Thank you.
I agree with the suggestion of less projects and more completions, focusing on using our existing roadways better than we currently are. That's what we should be focusing on. I'm curious to question the town manager. The example of Gray and Libby, is there any sort of property needed that we don't have that's holding that one up? Like, why is that one not moving forward? Just because we're not getting funding from the DOT primarily?
Thank you. I'll answer the question and then do my job as a town manager to recommend focusing on the intersection at hand. But the problem with a lot of these intersections is the cost to do major improvements. It's simple paint realignments, things like that. But when you have a major realignment, traffic signals, which are ridiculously expensive, or just complex engineering around high volume areas, it's very difficult and very costly. So it does slow down these projects, including 22 and 114. That's me bringing everybody back to the
Thank you.
on hand.
Janet? Go ahead, Councilor Stiegel.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I believe through to the town manager, and we may need to involve the Director of Public Works if need be. How old are the conversation of smarter lights came up. How old are the current lights at that intersection, the current traffic lights?
Thank you. The Public Works Director will be able to give you a better ballpark. They're pretty old. They're definitely the oldest set, I believe, we have in the entire town. We have, correct me if I'm wrong, 2 sets that are not smart or modern technology, the other being 3. I guess Weeks Road, Mosher's Corner, and down there in South Gorham. The ones in the village have a more modern set of technology in them. And again, part of the issue is the cost to upgrade them to a modern mast arm smart system. The complicated nature of, and Terry, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, South Gorham's a different animal because it requires more planning of the traffic flow into other municipalities. It's not like it's just all our main street in Gorham. That's where the traffic backs up. This is going into other areas, other signals. It's more of a regional issue.
And I guess what kind of life expectancy are we looking at? Like, do we expect these lights to actually be dying in the next 5 to 10 years?
Thank you.
They're the oldest in our.
We are very hopeful that they will last a long, long time. That being said, they're old. They can break. Maintenance and repair is a concern. They are simpler than the lights we have, but they're old, and it's hard to get parts for anything that's old. So I don't know what the life expectancy of this signal is. I think new signals that are installed, it's a while. And if you want, Terry can speak to any of that. But I think they're past their life expectancy.
Got it. Yeah, I would appreciate if there were harder numbers. That would be helpful as well. Sorry, if that's okay, I'd like to.
Very short.
Yeah.
As far as life expectancy, they've been no changes down there that I recollect, and I've been here 36 years. It could last another 10 years. It's electronics, anything's possible, but I know to replace just what's in the cabinet down there for a new controller is going to be $35,000, $40,000, $50,000. That when you get into the lights and the cameras and the things that a modern signal has, you're going to spend $1 million or better in that intersection just for that. And to the manager's point, that particular corridor, we have one set of lights. Whatever fancy smancy we get there, unless we could hook into the lights in Scarborough and make that whole corridor flow, because right now the traffic moves in blocks from one mess to another. Scarborough is upgrading their lights at this time. We have an opportunity at some point down the road to maybe have those run concurrently together, but again, it's an expense. But again, those lights are a concern. The controllers and the box and stuff is just old.
And we've talked a lot about DOT being involved in major road changes. But if we were just talking about new lights, is that also a DOT project?
Absolutely. They would be the ones that would be designing it. It would come right from Augusta, and it would be, a big project. Yep.
And would this property that we're discussing tonight be necessary if we're just talking about putting in new lights?
It's a possibility, depending on the design of the mast arms and the light figures. Right now, the lights are hung on a cable across the intersection, which is not a current standard for lights. You've got 3 legs or 4 legs of traffic there that you're going to be talking about, so I would assume there'd have to be a new mast arm put in on that side of the intersection. Again, I'm not a traffic engineer myself, but just historically what I see, I would assume they'd need some property on that side of the street to do what needs to be done.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Councilor Sims.
Actually, Terry, if you don't mind, you might be able to help answer this question as well. Just so the one thing I'm trying to ascertain is, look, I understand DOT has a limited budget. They don't have enough money to maintain all the road network we already have. We don't have enough money to maintain our road networks. So there's limited funds. There's priorities all over the state. If we purchase this parcel, does it help us make a stronger case to the Department of Transportation to get them to focus on this intersection sooner than later?
Mr. Vice Chair, I'm happy to answer that. I'll put Terry on the spot.
Please.
I would say, generally speaking, no.
Okay.
It could help. To what extent it could help, I could not tell you. It may help more locally, like the PAX level, where we could leverage some funding or something like that. But DOT is a numbers organization. Just like PAX, they're going to look at traffic counts, volume, money, where the need is, and they have a process. So I don't think it would make a major difference either way.
the town would certainly need to petition the DOT to do a formal study of that intersection to determine what is and isn't required.
And just to clarify, we can make that petition to the DOT with or without this property.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's the
okay.
starting point, you know. If you're really serious about doing that, you really need to get a hold of DOT and put a
Yeah.
formal request in through, and it could be through PACS, it could be through DOT itself. There's several avenues, but that's how that's going to have to get started.
Thank you, Terry. So I'll put my 2 cents in here. When I originally saw this, I was in favor of it, but then once I started peeling back the layers, now I'm not in favor of it. We're dealing with taxpayers' dollars here to purchase a decent-sized chunk of land in which, if we need to upgrade the lighting system, we don't need all 0.58 acres. We just need a little bit of it. So now we're left with land that's unusable and not on our tax rolls. So for many reasons, including those, I'm having a hard time with this one. I feel like it was rushed. I'm not ready to make a commitment on this right now. There's no plan, so that certainly plays into my decision-making. Councillor Kush.
Thank you. I guess I want to start by saying I was I was open-minded at the beginning of this. I really appreciate the idea. I think that we've had really good discussion about this item. I also will not be supporting spending the money at this point, just because there are lots of other things that are happening around. But I do think that it was a great idea to bring forward. The timing of it is because the timing of it. It came up now. So I appreciate the robust discussion. I've learned a lot, especially real estate things. But I won't be supporting us purchasing this. Thank you.
Yeah, I tend to agree. So I'd be happy to rescind the motion, or we can vote it down, whatever you all prefer to do, whatever the appropriate order is. Yeah.
We're going to take action on it.
Okay.
Are you good?
Yeah.
Seeing no more comments, we will vote on it. All in favor?
Nope.
All those opposed? 6 nays. And that is our last agenda item. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Good job.
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second? All right, all those in favor? Thanks. Well done.
And this seat?